Shalom, good evening from Jerusalem, Israel. This is Mr. Lowell Joseph Gallen, founder of the Root and Branch Association Limited, established in the United States of God of Israel, bless America, in New York State in 1981, now celebrating our 45th year. Today is Tuesday, February 24th, 2026, in the Gregorian calendar. Since it is after nightfall, it is the onset of the 8th day of the 12th Israelite Hebrew month of Adar, year 5786 in the Hebrew Israelite calendar. Welcome to episode 35 of our monthly seminar, Ancient Roots Mothering, Roots, Nettles, and Sage, with three mighty women of the God of Israel, two of whom are present with us. The third is with us in spirit, which is in alphabetical order. Mrs. J. Rivka Asulin of the Lower Galilee, Mrs. Chava Dagan of the Southwest Negev, and I have to rechange that. It's not USA, it's Eretz Yisrael. And we welcome our friends and colleagues, Naomi from California. We wish they all could be California girls, and Adi from Boise, Idaho. All right. And I'm talking to you from Jerusalem. Now, I want you to please all support the work of Rivka and Chava and Gila. The links will be below to their websites. They have wonderful products and services. I'd be happy to say the same for Naomi or Adi if I knew what it was, but I don't know yet. And everybody, we want everyone promote your whatever you're doing for good, that somebody should use your services, especially in our troubled times. So please support them. And please support Lowell Welcomes, that's me, your support for his work to build our 31-year-old Hebrew Bible-based broadcasting network, English language conference and lecture series from Jerusalem, Eretz Yisrael, to honor the Godland, Torah, and people of Israel and all humanity, and our 2-year-old since January 2024, Henry Dunster College of Jerusalem, Eretz Yisrael. We are replanting the old Harvard in the new Jerusalem. What are we talking about? Okay, history time, 1636. The Puritan Pilgrim founding fathers have just gotten off the boats at Plymouth Rock. That's the separatist Puritans. The main Puritans in Massachusetts Bay, that's where Boston is. And they say, we're going to have a college. They didn't have anything, just had an idea. 1642, the first graduating class. Who was John Harvard? He was a young Puritan minister, 30 years old, who wanted to go to the New World to help build a new Jerusalem. He died. Many people in those days, you got sick, you died. And he donated his estate, don't hold your breath, whatever he brought on the boat, a few books, to the college. Who was Henry Dunster? He was the first president. First graduating class, 1642. Not co-ed, they didn't do it that way back. 9 boys who taught all the classes. Henry Dunster. They had a vision, they had a plan, they just did it. Okay, why do we say we are replanting the old Harvard and the new Jerusalem? Because, and I'm glad my father didn't live to see this, because to him, he went to City College. They called it the poor man's Harvard. And if he would see what happened in the last 10 years to Harvard, it's in 2036 would be the 400th anniversary of the founding of the college, but you won't have an anniversary because it's dead. Intellectually, spiritually, morally, theologically, ideologically, sociologically, all the other logicallys you want, it's dead. Love Story by Professor, what was his name, with, the movie with Ali McGraw and Ryan O'Neal in the early 1970s about Harvard University, so lovely. Love Story by Professor Eric Siegel was his name. He was from Yale. Just mausoleums in a cemetery. And what about the endowment? Well, cemeteries have big endowments, because when you have a president who can go to the Congress and is asked that it's okay to call for the genocide of Jews, and the president, looking with this wicked little smile, can actually answer, well, it depends on the context. And she would never say that if it was gays, trans, blacks, Did never talk that way. But Jews, well, it depends on the context. At that point, your university is dead. And that is why I say we are replanting the old Harvard in the New Jerusalem with world-class people with world-class ideas and world-class activities. Someone say, well, who are you? If I have to pull rank, and I come from a world that, yeah, I went to Swarthmore College 50 years ago. We were the three top colleges, liberal arts in the United States, Harvard, Williams, Amherst, and Swarthmore. Now, because of DEI and all that crap, it's down to 26. In a few years, you'll be able to get in if you can read and write. So I can condescend and look down on whoever the hell I want. And I say we're reestablishing the old Harvard and the New Jerusalem, a real university where, not like in Oxford now, you can study class 6. You don't even have to know Greek and Latin. We are replanting the old Harvard and the New Jerusalem with world-class people, with world-class ideas and world-class activities. This is the medical department. Is it herbalist or herbologist? If that's the right way to say it. Herbologist or herbalist?
It depends how much you're into Harry Potter.
Okay, so both, to each his own. Herbologist and how to feel better. This is the medical department. All right. Now, without further ado, I'm going to join our distinguished guests, Naomi and Adi, in the gallery. This is one of my programs which I feel good after, rather than the other ones which deal with all the horrible stuff. We have plenty. We have about 30 a month. This is the happy one. Herbs, feelings, meditation, vibrations, resonances, cosmic harmonies, all the good stuff. Now I'm handing it over to Rivka and Chava. I'm going to go join Naomi and Adi. And at the end, we're all going to feel better than we do now when we hear what Rivka and Chava have to say. Ladies, mighty women of the God of Israel, it's all yours. I'm going up to the gallery.
Thank you, Lol Aryeh Alayan, for our times Mazal Tov on the Brit Milah of Gabriel. I have 3 birthdays in my family as well, so happy birthday to 3 of my children this week, who all share the same week of birthdays. And as far as supporting our work, Chava reminded me that on her website, you can purchase our Herbal First Aid courses, Herbal First Aid 1 and Herbal First Aid 2. Check that out at nettlesandpins.com. And you can also find it on ancientrootsisrael.com, but head over to Chava's because she's better set up for all the purchase stuff. We're really, really happy to have you join us today. Cosmic energy, good vibes. Let's get to the root of this, right? Let's go to how we establish all those good vibes and all that health that we live with every day for all our lives, which is based on the marriage, on a Jewish marriage, or on any marriage, really, on marriage. And today we're going to be talking about how to look for a partner. Now, we both, Chava and I, both looked for our own partners. We're both married. We've learned a few things over the years. And we also have children who are going to be getting into that dating scene or are already in the dating scene. And so we're kind of reliving it through their eyes with a little bit of distance and thinking about not only what we want for our children and what we want for the generation out there and what we would have liked to have known about when we ourselves were searching, but just kind of like how to roll this all together. And it's really valid for everybody. I have divorced friends who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond who are searching right now. Anybody who's looking, children, grandchildren, yourself. Let's talk about some maybe red flags, some things that we want, a little bit of the knowledge that we've gained over our lifetimes. So, Chava, I'll bounce it over to you.
Okay, so I think when we are in that stage of looking for our bashert, sometimes things get clouded over. He's so handsome, or we're just really in this stage of life where we want to start having kids and we want to get married. And so we kind of rush through things or gaze over some of the things that we weren't purposely not paying attention to, or it's easier to look at the easier low-hanging fruit than it is to ask some really good questions when you're sitting by yourself and you're saying, okay, what am I really seeing here? What am I really feeling when I'm with this person? What's the conversation like? Their personality, how you feel with this person, meaning what do they bring out from you, the best, the worst, or do they just kind of shove it under the rug and not really care what you have to say? And I think if someone had brought me through just like a few questions to ask myself when I was in that stage of looking, and so sadly, so many people I know, it's just there must have been something. We were all in a hurry. I don't regret anything. I'm not saying that, but it was like I wish someone had helped me, held my hand, and made me ask some really good questions. And so now my children are in this stage, and I would like them to ask themselves some really good questions. And if I don't mention it, they'll just be the same place that many of us were in, which is kind of rushing through it. And I don't think that's very helpful. So I just wanted to bring this to the forefront so that maybe we can support and help those around us who are in that stage of looking by just opening the conversation. Because if we don't open the conversation, it gets, pushed down and then it might be ignored. And then it all comes up later and it shouldn't have to be in that circumstance. So one place that we can start is conversation, I guess. When you are looking for someone or my children or whatever, what kind of a conversation when you're all alone and no one else is with you and you're just sitting in a coffee shop looking at each other back and forth over the table, what do you talk about? Is it superficial stuff? Or is it really deep and meaningful? It can be both. That's great. But not denying that second one. The deep, meaningful conversations. And if you really are looking for a bashert, someone who you plan on marrying, these life goals. And of course, when we're young or when we're in different stages of life, everything fluctuates and we can change, and that's wonderful. But are we into growth? Are we into asking difficult questions? Are we into having difficult conversations and being okay with criticism and things like this? So it's opening the conversation, being completely open and honest on both sides. Is that happening? Sometimes it's coming from you and it's not coming from the other person. You're like, oh, it'll be okay. I'll change him. How many times have we all said that? I'll change him. It'll be fine. That doesn't work. And it should never work. Go ahead, Rivka.
Yeah, so I'll change a person. Apparently not everyone knows this, but that's not a good quality in a dating relationship. So if you're dating somebody and you're trying to figure out how to change this person, it could be change their communication, change their, something that you think is really good. Oh, I want to help fix this thing. I want to help, but really, 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 it doesn't work. And not only does it not work, but it's disrespectful and unkind and uncaring to the other person. Ideally, when you're dating, you want someone to meet you exactly where you are. So all these foundational things like conversation, since that's what we've been talking about so far, you need to meet at the same place. I think what Chava said from both sides is really both being the optimal kind of key word here. Is it can be very nice if one person is is sharing deep thoughts on their side and the other person's listening. And sometimes it makes you feel like, oh, we're meeting eye to eye. But really step back in the quiet when you've had some time alone and ask yourself this question. Is this person also sharing their deep thoughts with me? And am I listening to their deep thoughts? Or am I just feeling close to this person because I'm sharing deep thoughts and this person is listening? It's a tricky kind of trap that I think a lot of us can easily fall into. Um, yeah, so I would say that just to add that to deep, meaningful conversations. The next thing that I think people don't realize is such a big deal is family, the family of the person you're dating. So you don't get to meet families straight away. So by the time you get to meet the family of the person you're dating, you've already shown an interest in one another. It looks like things might be moving somewhere because usually you're not going to get introduced to the family until they are. So there's already a lot of vested emotions, feelings, interest in the relationship by the time we meet family. And that can make this moment even more fraught with danger because we are so invested by that point. We'll be looking to make excuses or looking for the best in the situation when we meet the family. But it's really, really important to not do that and to pay attention to your body. Maybe Chava can talk about this a little bit too, but pay attention to the feelings inside your body when you're listening to the family's interactions with your potential spouse, with you, with one another. um, See how it feels to you. If something isn't sitting right, really don't overlook that or sweep that under the rug or say, well, I'm marrying this person, not the family. Actually, according to our traditions, Jewish tradition, you are marrying the family as well as the person. Not only because this family is going to be a big part of your life, whether you like it or not, or whether you think you'll change it or have it under control, but the family that raised your spouse, all of those um, behaviors are imprinted on the spouse. And so that what you're seeing in the interactions and communication between family members, the behaviors, that is the default. That is the default template coded inside of your potential spouse. And that's exactly what's going to come out in times of crisis, stress, anger, fear, trouble, massive change, exhaustion. And all those things happen a lot as new parents, as newlyweds who are starting your own home together or starting a new career or moving to a new place. You're going to see that because there is so much growth and change over a lifetime. So if you don't like the way the family's communicating with one another, um, understand that may very well be the way that your spouse will be communicating with you for the rest of your life. And it's not really changeable unless your spouse decides, him or herself, that they see a problem and they want to change it. Chava.
Yeah, that whole body feeling inside of your body. When something feels right, you feel open and uh, ready to accept. And then when something doesn't feel right, you feel more closed. Maybe your stomach feels a little clenched. Something feels a little off, and it's a very physical feeling. Um, in these conversations with family, there are traumas. Everyone comes with their own traumas on all sides. Every single one of us comes with, whether it's traumas, bad habits, um, routines, things that we in our comfort zone always refer back to, and that might have come from family. Um, and yeah, that's a really, really big one to pay attention to because someone has to deal with these traumas by themselves. They cannot, like we said, be changed. It's just not possible. But when someone wants to change, they will come forward and they will make the effort. Definitely. So that's something, again, conversation, open and honest. Um, Goals. When we sit down and have a conversation with someone, do we have similar goals? Whether that's for family, where you want to live, how your lifestyle is. Um, that's huge because are we heading in the same direction? And again, everyone can change. This is something that's totally natural. But the base of your goals in life and in which direction you are heading in, are they similar? Do they melt together? Um, I was just thinking of people that I know, and when we're young or whatever, different stages of life, and that kind of sometimes is clouded over again, sort of ignored. Oh, it'll be okay. So to be very clear on what we want, and that other person to be also very clear on who they are and what they want. Addictions as well. That would come under all of our traumas and family routines and whatever addictions. What kind of addictions do people have, and are they willing to work on it? And addictions, by the way, can be even to their telephones. I mean, are they married to their phone? Would they rather spend their time with their phone? This is just an example, but things to look out for, to be very clear on what's important. Um, and I guess that comes down to really getting to know yourself as well before heading into something and then losing your identity to a couple. Once you're together, are you the same person? Or do you sort of meld into that other person's identity? Something to think about.
Yeah, I think especially women are at risk of trying to bend their bend themselves to the will of another or a willingness to change for others. And it's especially important for women to have a sense of who they are. Now, things come up in life and it's very, very hard. I mean, we've talked a lot on this show about raising children with attachment parenting, some of the choices we made with healthcare, and I didn't know all those things, or homeschooling. I didn't know those things going into the marriage. I mean, you do learn and change, but I do remember asking when I was dating, or letting my spouse know, I'm really weird. I go against the crowd. I don't do what's conventional. I'm actually comfortable there. I question societal norms. Um, I question too many people getting into the same box. And so I did at least have an awareness about myself, and going in, it was kind of like setting up expectations, proper expectations for how I was going to approach life, and things like maybe the school system, or vaccines or healthcare or something like that, or home birth. Um, so yeah, that was a good heads up. I one my son, actually, I've been learning so much from my son, as well, who was kind of the first to go into the dating scene from our family. And one of the questions that he learned in the process that he should be asking is, what is your ultimate purpose for having a family? What is your ultimate goal? Like, with having a family, how do you want to change the world, yourself, something, like this, through a family? Which I think is a really interesting question, because it sets up an idea. Chava and I and Gila have all talked about intentional parenting, and just thinking about what we're doing at every step of the way. Um, and so I think that question kind of sets things up. A lot of people are, going, oh, I just want to get married, I want to have kids, but they're not really going, like, why? Why? I want to kind of change, you know, the way society's going, or I want to fix something in my family line that didn't go well for me when I was a child. Those are real self-reflective questions that are important to ask before going into a marriage or having children. And also in a marriage, many of us came from dysfunctional marriages. And so asking, what is your ultimate purpose? Or describe for me what your ideal family looks like. So I realized much too late into my own marriage that when I would talk about a warm, loving family, my husband, who also came from a dysfunctional family, had no picture in his mind for what that looked like. And so one of the things I've done in recent years is I've started a group on social media where I bring in videos because pictures worth 1,000 words. So pictures, videos, even poems or something thoughtful to help describe what I'm thinking of. So I think of one video where there's like a group of siblings, like maybe 4 siblings, and they all have children. So they're all aunts and uncles, and all the children are cousins to one another, and they all show up at the grandparents' house and knock on the door at about 7 o'clock at night, and it's a surprise. And they all come in their pajamas with backpacks, and they all decided together they're going to drop in on grandma and grandpa, and we're going to have a slumber party, this weekend or whatever it was. And so they send them one at a time to knock on the door, and the grandparents are going, "What are you doing here? And you're in your pajamas." "Well, I guess you're spending the night," and bring them in. And then the next group comes in, and the next group. And then, it shows everyone kind of laying on the floor, sprawled out on the couch, falling asleep under the table. And they're all playing board games and eating ice cream and just having fun together and enjoying one another's company. So for me, that was kind of a real eye opener, because when I showed that to my husband, he was like, whoa, like this idea that something like this could happen never even crossed his mind. So sometimes those visual cues can be helpful in communicating with the person you're dating, or even already married to, where your headspace is, because saying a warm, loving family means one thing to one person and another thing to another. Um, just to go back on the topic about those feelings that you have in your body that Chava so beautifully described what those feel like. Gaslighting. If someone's telling you that what you're feeling in your body, what you know to be true, is not happening, or that it's okay, and you're feeling in your body, this is not okay, pay attention to that. I would write that off. I would say, well, there's maybe a cultural issue, because my husband comes from the Israeli culture, as does Chava's husband. And we were both raised American. So I would say, well, maybe it's a cultural issue. I would try to make excuses. But in reality, over 20 years into my own marriage, that isn't the case. The things that felt wrong to me on day one were wrong for me. And so the fact that my husband, for him, it was right, even if that was a cultural issue, him saying like, no, my parents weren't screaming at each other. They weren't fighting. That didn't happen, or they were just talking about the weather, you know. Um, it wasn't a malicious thing. He just couldn't see it. He was used to it growing up with it, but that was an important issue. He couldn't see it, and I could. So when you're dating someone and you recognize that you're seeing a truth and you're feeling it in your body, but the person you're dating doesn't see that same truth and actually is going so far to say, no, this isn't what's happening, that's another red flag.
Yeah, gaslighting is a huge thing. It's so huge because I think so many in the world today are being gaslighted by in every direction that they no longer recognize it. And then they in turn do it to those close to them. And when we do recognize it, it's something to look out for. Again, always knowing yourself. And you probably should not be dating or get ready to get married until you really, really know yourself and feel comfortable asking difficult questions. Some of the triggers, I guess, or true sensors that you can look for when you're hanging out with someone. would be, how do they react to small children, to animals, to older people, to situations where they should be sympathetic? Do they feel empathy for others? Are they willing to put themselves in other people's shoes? Um, are they more self-centered, or are they always looking out for other people? Do they take a global view of things, or just always a very personal, um, self-centered, I guess, view? Um, that they tell a lot, these little tiny triggers that could be set off. Are they welcome in every situation where they just kind of jump in and have a good time with people they don't even know? Or are they very, I mean, these are not, one is good or one is bad, never saying that. Just things to look out for, because to yourself and how you feel that you might fit together or not, they're little red flags to recognize, which is what it all comes down to. Um, how do you feel when you're with this person? Do they inspire you? Are you able to inspire them? Sometimes two people come together and they just kind of friction, rubbing each other the wrong way, even though there's not really anything, to put a name on. But do you feel inspired? Do you feel supported? Do you feel heard? And again, do you want those things for that other person? Um, Tiny little things that maybe people don't pay attention to or don't think are all that important are very, very important. Very important. And you can see it before you step into it, just from those tiny little things.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to jump on was small problems can get big really fast. And my son felt that that was really helpful. And he told me later, mommy, whoa, I didn't really understand what you were talking about. And now I kind of understand it. Those little small things that are niggling at you right at the beginning, those are the things that blow up over the course of a marriage and over the long years. They don't go away, and you can't sweep them under the rug. And they're not little tiny problems. They usually, what we're perceiving as those small problems are indicative of a larger problem, something that's actually really bothering us, a root issue. So one of the things that I observed my rabbi do when he was talking with somebody who was he was asking him about the dating process. And he was saying, well, what are your likes about this person? Then what are your dislikes? What are the problems? What are you not liking? What's sending up a little red flag? And so this person said, well, it's not really a red flag. It's something very small. It's just this very small issue. And I saw the rabbi go all the way deep down into the issue. And it wasn't about the issue. Like Chava said, if it's being on the phone or whatever it is, it's what's behind it. An addiction or depression or irresponsibility, immaturity, something that's really behind that so-called small issue. That's the issue that blows up. That's the issue that gets big. Um, Empathy, yeah, was amazing. Thank you for bringing that up. I remember Ruchama Shane's story, Kick the Cat story, and for me, it's a good kind of device to remember what empathy should look like. So Ruchama Shane, I think it's Ruchama Shane in her book All for the Boss. I hope I'm not remembering this wrong. She writes about going on a date with a young man, and both came from very good families, and this was kind of a shidduch date, and both families had researched each other beforehand, and so it was just a question of whether or not they liked each other. Date was lovely. The man was a complete gentleman. Everything was great. And she went home and her parents said, how'd it go? And she said, it's very nice. It went very well. I'm not going to go out with him again. And the parents were very confused, like, what's going on? What's wrong? And she said, well, when we left the restaurant, a stray cat came up to like rub against his ankle and he kicked the cat and told the cat to go away. And I think it was her mother who said, "Oh, come on, that's not a reason to not, date someone again and give it." And the father said, "No, I completely agree with her. If he doesn't have that empathy, if he doesn't, for an innocent little animal, this is not going to go in a good direction. It's a sign of something bigger." So that's another example of something small that really isn't small. If you go deep, deep down, take a deep dive underneath that, there's a bigger issue there just waiting to come up. And it's the bigger issue that's going to haunt you in the future. Masculine and feminine. I want to bring this up because this is so important right now in our society when there's so much gender confusion or gender issues going on. And understandably so, actually. I think this makes a heck of a lot of sense because the roles, traditional gender roles, have become very blurred and very confusing. And that can be for good or for bad. There's positives and there's negatives about that. But regardless of the positive and negative, it is very confusing for a lot of people. And it's not because everyone's, an idiot or what. No, it's genuinely confusing. So knowing where you are, being able to get in touch, if you're a woman, with your divine feminine energy, if you're a man, with your divine masculine energy, I think that there's kind of a universal truth that isn't spoken about, but there's a universal truth and need. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chava, for women in a marriage situation or when looking at a potential marriage, to have the protection of her man. That's one of the roles that I think all women somewhere in, even if it's not on the tip of their tongue, it's really in their hearts that they want their man to protect them and protect their children. And this used to be obvious. We used to say women and children first, right? We used to say the men protect the women and children, and that was a societal norm, but it is not anymore. And it's not, for many different reasons. We can sit about and think about, is it feminism? Is it, what is it? But I do think, bottom line, for people who are looking into marriage, women in general are looking for a protective male who will protect them and any of their future offspring. Chava.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we referred to before. How do they make you feel? How do you feel when you are around them? Do you feel like a woman, or do you feel like you need to play some other role? Do you need to take up whatever is missing in him, or her, however it might go? And you can even, from the side, coming out in their conversation, how do they refer to women or men, whatever, however it's going to come from? Do they make snide little remarks all the time? Little jokes. And although it is funny or whatever it's meant to be, it sort of gives a clue as to the deeper underneath things, underlying attitude about women or men, however it goes. So, again, that when you hear this, does everyone laugh along, or do you sort of step back? You need to step back and say, wait a minute, what is he or she trying to say? Because does it make me feel like a princess, which I should be made to feel? When we are given the space to feel feminine and really come into our own, then we give back, obviously. And the same with men. So yeah, it's definitely something that we need to really look into because it might seem small, but again, those small things turn into something very, very big afterwards.
Yeah, I love how you said that. And for men, I would expect to just to, talking with my own son or talking with other men that I know and young men who are dating, they want to feel like a man. They want to feel that they've come into their divine masculine embodiment when they're with the woman that they are with. Um, is this person, we talked about this a little bit before, but I really want to hit it super hard. When you're talking with the person that you're dating, are they curious about you? Are they interested in you? Are they asking you questions? Are they coming with curiosity? And are you feeling seen? Are they asking you about your hopes, your dreams, your childhood, what you love? Um, do you have laughter together? Do you have shared interests, things that you'll do? It can be confusing because a lot of times we're told, well, opposites attract or something like that. But on some points, opposites don't attract. On some points, your foundations and your fundamental truths need to match, or there's going to be a lot of conflict. Um, I think about spiritual practice, for example. I come from a Jewish mother and a Christian father. And when they both tried to kind of embrace their spiritual paths, there was a tremendous amount of conflict, which was very awful for the children and certainly awful for them. So don't go with platitudes either, like the opposites attract or it'll all work out, or really be thoughtful about it. Some things can be worked out and some things can work and some things really can't.
Well, I think that goes towards, yeah, are we willing to embrace growth? And you can tell by your conversations where that answer will come from. Because we are who we are today, but tomorrow, where are we going to explore? How are we going to change? How are we going to grow? But there are people who just don't. And you can recognize that and make your decision accordingly.
It's also relevant in trying to figure out what we're building together, because a marriage is building something. You're building a family line, you're building a home, you're building a model and a template for your children, for your grandchildren that goes way on into the future. If you don't have children, you're still building a home where you welcome friends, where you influence society, where you're involved perhaps in community, and you're reflecting your foundation or your home to the outside world. So what you want to build together, really asking that question, what do we want to build? um, what kinds of things interest us? What do we feel is our mission, our God-given mission? We all have one in the world. See if there's compatibility on that level. I've spoken with couples where one of them kind of wanted this very intimate, quiet family life, and the other one really wanted an open Shabbat table, open Chagim, guests coming in and out all the time. And it was really, really important, and it was important through the generations. So one member of this couple, the parents had a Chabad house, and their parents had a Chabad house. This was really a fundamental part of this man's being. And the potential bride in question, this was absolutely not. It made her feel very nervous and very upset. And so no matter, how much they liked one another, if someone's feeling like that's their mission in life is to have an open table Chabad house, and the idea of, well, you'll get used to it or we'll change it or whatever. No. If lady's interested and she says, hey, that sounds kind of good to me. Let me look into it. Let me learn more. Let me experience what this would look like for a while. That's another story. But somebody who's really uncomfortable with that, it's just not, it's going to bring a lot of friction throughout the marriage if it's
Yeah.
ignored.
I just on that same topic, someone I know recently was dating and everything was great, getting along, moving forward, and he was dead set on living in a camper van and traveling around. And she said, wait a minute. That's not at all the direction I was going into. I want a home and I want a family and I want to be very rooted in my community. So that was the end of that. I mean, it really, both people knew exactly what they wanted, and that's when we need to call it quits. Yeah.
Yeah, being able to articulate those needs and boundaries are really fundamental. And I did not see that modeled in my home. And my husband didn't see it modeled in his home. So it's been quite a process for both of us to learn how to articulate our needs and boundaries and even to recognize needs and boundaries. Because sometimes, we, especially if we had it modeled for us to just be people pleasing, or we believe we're trying to keep the peace in the home, but really these crossing boundaries starts to grate on you because it's a boundary. It's something that's actually makes you feel very unhappy, uncomfortable, unsafe, unproductive, saps your energy, your creativity. It's actually unhealthy for you what your boundaries are. So some boundaries are, I mean, again, like everything, we have to negotiate which boundaries are immovable and which boundaries are movable. You know, I may not like someone taking white sugar in their tea, but I don't have to take white sugar in my tea. And having white sugar next to the tea, it's like, it's not that big of a deal. Like I can deal with that. Okay. It's important to be able to be flexible and know what's really important and what really isn't that important too. And that can be kind of tricky.
Also, the big thing, we kind of mentioned it in the beginning, but this willingness to, or even different way to put it, when you see that your situation growing up was not in the best interest of the entire family, and then trying to correct it when you have a chance to have your own family, rather than continue in those bad habits. There's something very fundamental in that because those bad habits are very comfortable when you've grown up with them and this is your go-to in a situation. Or do you recognize it and definitely put it in your brain that this is not going to happen in your own family? And when you're both willing to work on that, it's a whole different story. So again, these conversations, very, very important. So big.
Friendship, building up each other. That's another important thing to look out for. And it actually is easily overlooked. I saw a couple who were dating, and I watched one of them completely overlook this. So one of them was um, doing a skill that he had worked really hard on, let's say playing a musical instrument. And it was the first time that he had played the musical instrument in front of the, potential girl in question. And she had like it was a negative reaction. It was like, oh, I don't really like that kind of music, instead of, wow, you've learned this instrument, like that must have taken years of your life. And obviously you're passionate about this. I've saw it in another time with painting with an artist who loved painting and after at like the second or third date brings the guy into the art studio and says, this is my body of work, 20 years of work sitting here. And he's like, yeah, so I'm not really that into art, but like that's great that you love it, and just left. But there was no curiosity, or like this is literally her putting her 20 years of her life on the table spread before him. And there was no curiosity, no desire to really get close to this person. And really, to me, those types of situations are indications that if the person is behaving this way, it's because the whole relationship to this person is about what they can get out of it, what interests them, what feels good to them, what they like. And it's not about how can I build you up? How can I identify your skills? And even if I don't understand them or get them, I can appreciate that this is something you love and I want to see you succeed and support you. Um,
Respect, respect. It's all about the respect. Yeah. Are you getting it? Are you giving it? Do you? Yeah. Yeah. RESPCT.
Yeah, I mean, we've brought up respect before, and Lowell Aria said, "Well, describe what you really mean by that." So I guess this would be one type of description is, um, respect is taking an interest, is really, really, really caring. But even more specifically, how can I build you up? Because I know this is important to you. Um, and really have some joy in that, not an obligatory, well, I have to attend your, symphony concert, but I don't want to, and I'm going to bow out at intermission, like, no, I want to see you in your element doing what you love. How does the person you're dating deal with a crushing blow? So you've auditioned for the orchestra and you didn't get in. You've lost your job. A friend has died. What is the reaction? Again, if you have someone who's really kind of stops everything and meets you right where you are and is caring, empathetic, really stopping everything to see that you're okay and and saying, I want to support you. I want to be here for you. I want to hold your hand at this time, and listen to you and help you get through it. That works on both sides. Most of these things work on both sides. So I saw a situation where husband and wife both lost their job in the same year. When the wife lost the job, the husband goes, "Yeah, okay, you'll find a new one." Meanwhile, the wife is sitting and crying for like weeks, and the husband's kind of like, "Are you still on about that? Like, it's really no big deal. Get over it. Like, we don't need, I work, we don't need that money." And then, of course, the husband lost his job later. And I just saw the difference in how the wife responded. And the wife was like really present for him, up with him all night, talking with him about his feelings about it, listening to him, helping him search for other jobs, letting him know that his worth and value is not dependent on the job or his money making abilities. Um, that she loves him for him and believes in him for him. That's two very different responses, and certainly a red flag.
Well, I think we're coming to the end of the time for our recorded program. So would you like to make concluding remarks, ladies? You're talking about very serious issues of relationships and problems and whether people come from dysfunctional families. So where's your role models and how do you provide better examples for children? All these are really important questions. So would you like to make some concluding remarks for the recorded program?
Well, I have a list of questions actually that I'd like to end with, and Chava
Okay.
obviously afterwards can and should add her thoughts. But these were questions we talked about together, that we came up with together. So ask yourself this: does he or she, I'll say he because I'm a female, does he ask your opinions about things? Does he put you down? Is he interested in what you have to say? Does he have the ability to put himself into your shoes? Is he interested in building something together with you? Are there little comments that you're noticing that demonstrate a world view? Maybe, on the road, oh, it was probably a woman driver, or, yeah, she should just be in the kitchen, you know. There's probably a belittling reality if you dive underneath that. Do they want to know about you or just want you to know about them? And what are the family patterns? What is the attachment type? If you don't know about attachment types, definitely check that out. But what is the attachment pattern between him and his parents and siblings, and between his siblings with the parents, and between the parents with one another? Chava.
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of things. I wish everyone that they should find their bashert and that they should really come into their own, and they find their tribe and they find themselves, and that we should all move forward with healthy, happy, well-adjusted children. Amen.
So thank you very much, Rivka and Chava. We will reconvene in a month for episode 36. Hopefully we'll all be alive and in one piece and still here. That will be between Purim and Passover, and hopefully there'll be some wonderful positive miracles to celebrate. We will see. So shalom from the Lower Galilee, Southwest Negev in Jerusalem, and we will see everyone a month from now. Also, please like and subscribe to the Rumble channel where the videos are posted. And Chava and Rivka, do you have something people can subscribe to on Facebook or your website, the email list or something like that? On the
On our
website.
websites, yeah, that's there.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we've stopped recording, and Adi and your friend from